Again, welcome to Perspectives from the Sky. Today, we have a very special guest. Peter Sterling is our guest today. I met Peter just a few weeks ago at the UFO conference. You know, I was just telling everybody about how Mercury's changing directions today, and watch out, you're going to make mental mistakes. I didn't press the button to start the show until just a minute ago. I was talking and talking and talking as if the show was going on. So you too, pay attention. Mercury changes direction, just like the last couple of elections, especially the Bush-Gore one, went back and forth all night as Mercury was changing directions. That's how our minds can be going and our communication can be going when it's changing directions like it is. And I fell victim to it. And I do this for a living. So there you go. So don't be hard on yourself if you make some mental mistakes. So we're in eclipse season. And we're going to be in eclipse season with Mercury retrograde at the same time. That builds us some challenges. Definite challenges. We don't want to jump into conclusions. We don't want to make any hasty decisions. And sometimes when there's eclipses, you feel like things are changing and moving and you want to do something big or you want to make a big decision. Do your best to not do it. Mercury goes back direct on the 22nd of June. And then give it another week or 10 days after that before your mind begins to clear up and you're more sane and you can start making those kind of decisions. So this will get shaken up. And, you know, at the same time all this is happening, the United States Pluto in its natal chart is being aspected. And the Pluto in the United States natal chart is the military-industrial complex. And so we're talking about military and we're talking about economic. This is where a lot of the changes are going to happen in our lives in America. Military, economic. So just expect those. Big change. Paradigm is changing. Not the same world anymore. At the same time as the darker energies are coming in, there's going to be a lot of light just bursting through. And I know a lot of you have experienced it already. You're onto the train ride of synchronicities and more magic in your life. And signs and symbols that you're catching from the universe. And you've decided to meditate more. And you have other spiritual practices and spiritual friends. All these things will keep moving into this new age in a very positive way because there's two things going on at the same time. One is the old world is dying. The other is a new world is being born. You don't want to concentrate on the old world dying. If you get really affected by the news and things like that, please don't watch the news. If it's going to take you into all negative thinking and fear-based thinking and a lot of hatred coming out towards somebody or other, don't go there. Because the more you turn to the light now, which is love and truth, the more you can turn there, the more you're going to be okay as we go through this transition. So that's on the 10th, the new moon in Gemini. And then the next eclipse season will be in November of this year. And that's a powerful one. That's the one that I kind of let people know that the aspects that month are very similar to the ones when the Roswell incident happened in June, July 1947. So I let everybody know not too long ago, before this year started, that the whole UFO ET issue was going to get bigger in 2021. And you can see that it is. The Pentagon just had some disclosures, and they put it on 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes program grabbed them, and they showed all these satellite images of these vehicles out in space. The people from the Navy that were on the air being interviewed said, we didn't know what the hell it was, and we did know by the way it was moving, like the quick darted movements or disappearing in the sky, that it's nothing to do with any kind of technology that we have. So that's what they said. There's a lot more disclosures coming out. And so this is going to be a big year for the paradigm change, remember. So the paradigm change is about, ultimately, we're all one and everything is connected. Love runs the universe. Truth runs the universe. You'll see that more and more clearly. And so whatever's going to happen with the ETs, don't get into like, oh my God, it's going to be horrible. They're going to destroy us. I don't feel that. I'm going to ask Peter when he comes on what he feels, but I feel more like there's people that are concerned, people that are concerned about what we're doing to the Earth and each other. I know that there's been a lot more sightings, I understand, around nuclear sites and things like that. So I think they're very concerned about what we're doing to each other and to the Earth itself. And their presence is going to help us to move forward into this age of Aquarius. And again, we'll know that all is one, all is connected, not just on the Earth, although that'll become much stronger, but all over the universe too. So that's a good segue into Peter. And so I want to introduce to you all Peter Sterling. And well, you're going to find out who he is as I ask him the questions. Peter, are you there? Good to see you. Let's see. Sound. Yeah, I cannot hear you yet. I don't know what everybody else can do. Are you on mute? No, you're not on mute. You're from this end, you're good. Okay. Mercury retrograde strikes again. Got to be something to do with your microphone there, I think, Peter. That's just my guess. Yeah, I can't hear. Cannot hear what you're saying. I can't hear anything. Hey, Deborah. Did you hear Peter?
Can't hear it.
You can't either? Yeah, it's definitely on your end somehow, Peter. Is there a way for you to like maybe get off and come back on again, like a reboot sort of your, or do you think that might help? Well, I'm sorry about that, everybody. I preach about Mercury retrograde. And, I remember when I first started learning astrology, and I'd talk about Mercury retrograde, and even though I'd reported what it was, I'd go, "Yeah, right, Leo, this stuff's not right." And then I always told myself, "You got to test it out." And when I did, let's see if I can get Peter back now.
Thing?
You're back.
Does it work?
It is. I can hear you well.
Oh, yeah, what do you know? Okay, good. Hey, Leo.
What magic did you perform there?
I just logged out and came back in. So Mercury retrograde, we subdued the Mercury retrograde gods.
Yes. But we have moved beyond it now.
Yes, we have. Good to be here with you.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's really nice to have you with. I just
Thank you,
I
Christine.
told everybody I met you not too long ago, but I felt really good in my heart the first time that I met you, so I knew things would be good.
Right on.
Tell me about your early life, what it was like. Let's start for people, get your life in context before everything.
Oh, my
happened.
early life. Wow. Geez, I kind of was raised. I had a grandmother who was a mystic, and she started teaching me mystical things when I was a young boy. And I actually wrote about it in my book, by the way, a little segue. Hearing
That's
the Angels
fine.
Sing.
Yes.
It's got my whole life story in here, believe it or not. But yeah, it's like I was being prepared for the work I'm doing now since I was young. As I said, my grandmother was a mystic. She was a soul traveler and very advanced in Eckankar, the science of soul travel. So she started sharing things with me as a young boy. One of the things she always did for me was whisper in my ear. There was a time when she was in my life quite a bit as a young child and would tuck me in at bed at bedtime, and she would tell me a story. She was my Irish grandmother, but she would always tell me to listen to my inner voice.
Oh,
Listen
nice.
to your inner voice. So that was kind of something she told me since I was even younger than my 10-year-old son now, and
You were very
something that had a big
fortunate to get
effect
that
on me.
advice. You were
Yeah,
very fortunate to get that kind of advice.
yeah,
Really.
yeah. So, and then as I got older, I started to inquire about what she was up to, and she started to share about her soul travels into the higher dimensions, and her encounters with ascended master teachers on the higher planes in these temples of golden temples of wisdom. And she'd also tell me that she would hear the angels, the celestial music, just 24 hours a day. She said the angels are just constantly singing to her. So I was so
Wow.
intrigued by this growing up as a teenager. And then as I got older and started to explore on my own spiritual journey, that opened up to me as well. And I too heard the celestial music and the angelic choirs, and hence that's where my music came from, and my life path and my mission were revealed to me when the
I'd like to
angels
hear about your
appeared.
first encounter with either ETs or angels or anything like that. But tell me, what was your life like your work and your personal life like at the time that you had your first encounter with whatever you had an encounter with?
What was my first encounter? Well, it really started to happen for me when I came to Sedona in the late 80s and came to go on my vision quest. So I'm speaking
Where'd you
to you
come
now.
from? Where'd you come
Pardon?
from? Where'd you
I
come
came
from?
from Colorado. I'd been living in Colorado and Aspen for about 10 years. I was a ski instructor, and I was living a pretty great life, but I always sensed, listening to my inner voice, as I was saying, it was telling me there was something else for me, something else I was to discover in my life. And so that's where I felt the call to come to Sedona about 30 years ago, and came here to go on my shamanic journey, so to speak, to discover, who I am and why am I here, what's my mission. And
Yeah.
so I was led to Sedona, and then just extraordinary things started to happen. I started to have encounters right away here. Of course, it's such a multi-dimensional portal.
For sure.
So much phenomena going on here. That was my first focus, I guess, as I was learning to walk on the land. I was studying the Native American philosophies of the medicine wheel and the four directions, and living very closely to the land, but then also opening up to receive communication from the extraterrestrials, our galactic brothers and sisters out there, who I was my understanding was they were here at this time of this great planetary transformation, and they were assisting planet Earth in making an ascension into a new dimension, ascension to dimension. So I was like all about that, and I actually lived in my Volkswagen van here for about 3 years,
Really?
and oftentimes I climb up on the top of the van and just lay under the stars and just call in the ships, and we'd see incredible phenomena. All sorts of sightings started to happen back then in the
Wow.
late 80s, early 90s for me, all the way up until today. We're having quite a lot of activity here nowadays in Sedona. So, yeah.
Tell me what the first encounter that you had was like, if you can remember it, with an ET.
With an ET? Oh
Yeah.
boy. Well, that's as I said, it was during my early days here in Sedona. Now, there was one incident where I was with some friends, and we were camping out in the canyons, and we were under the stars and in a ceremonial state, and we were consciously calling in the ships. And at that point, we saw these lights moved, like a ship appeared in front of us, and then little tiny balls of light came out of the bottom of it and flew around, kind of like what my friends described it as. I never saw the movie. It's called Batteries Not Included. It was almost like these little tiny probes. These little surveillance probes were sent out of the belly of some sort of a craft, and they approached us in the middle of the night, way out in the
Yeah.
canyons, and we all saw it. It was quite an astounding experience. So that was one of the first kind of shocking experiences that I had.
Of
And
course, I've got a lot of people see with you, which helps
yeah,
you to know that it's objectively true.
for sure, for sure. So, um, so that was I had a sense back then that was part of my work, was to be a liaison or an ambassador, if you will, for Earth, to make contact. We were all consciously doing that, calling forth some direct contact, and we all felt that that's what we were helping to build, that bridge of communication at this time. So it's been something that I've been doing for a long time. I actually received a series of what I call symbols from the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds, and I wish I had one handy here. Maybe I do. I could show it to you. Yeah, got one right here. And this was one of my jewelry pieces that I made back in the day. And this was like a Pleiadian symbol, I was told. You can see the kind of a wing-like feature with the round and the pyramid and a quartz crystal in the center. So this was one of my early jewelry pieces that I made. So I had a Pleiadian symbol, a Sirian symbol, and an Arcturian symbol. And I make stained glass windows working with sacred geometry. There was one instance when I was awoken here in my art studio back in the early 90s, and I had received a design, like, here's one of my stained glass windows I wanted to share with you.
Keep it there for
and
a second.
so isn't that cool?
Yeah. As you move it around, all sorts of different lighting.
Oh yeah, they're very iridescent, and you can see there's a quartz crystal pyramid in the center of this one. Yeah. But I received a design. It was like 2, 3 in the morning. I got a message: wake up, prepare to receive a transmission. So I went to my drafting table and working with a compass and a ruler. They just started to move on them by themselves, and after about 15 or 20 minutes, I created this design, and then 2 days later, a woman came to my studio. She said, I was led to meet you. I had a dream about you 2 nights ago that I was to come to see you, and you were going to make me a piece of stained glass. And she walked in and she saw that pattern. I had put it on the wall. She says, that was in my dream 2 nights ago. Ooh. Exactly the night where I received it. I later, and when it came through, the message I received, that it was a Arcturian royal crest. And I thought that was very interesting. And then sometime later, I was in Santa Fe and I found a book called We the Arcturians by Norma Milanovic. She's like the most famous Arcturian channel. And I was flipping through the pages and came upon this page where it actually described a royal Arcturian crest with an eagle in it and a red sun. And that was exactly like this design. It was total confirmation. So yes, I've had quite a connection there for a long time. I actually have felt, Leo, that I'm more one of them than I am of an earth-based human, like a star seed. And,
Tell me more about that. Like, in what ways do you feel that that's true?
I, like many of my friends here in Sedona, we've kind of were the type where we kind of the black sheep of the family, and we were always kind of metaphysical and spiritual, but I was always kind of a loner most of my life, spent a lot of time alone thinking about things and these concepts, metaphysical concepts, even in, at a young age. And I always felt I was different than from everybody else. And I always felt I was observing, because I would watch the humans, and I always had a sense that I wasn't necessarily one of them, but I was here to do on some special mission. I don't know. It's just a feeling I've always kind of had for most of my life. And then, of course, as I got older, then my mission was revealed to me. Then all became very clear.
Funny about feeling like the black sheep. Santa Fe was the same way. I lived in Santa Fe for a number of years, and there was that same feeling in Santa Fe. Like, all of us that were there were like the black sheep in our family, didn't quite fit in anywhere. So I think there's some kind of a connection between these two places.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I do have my harp, if you'd like to hear a little
very
of
much
music. So. Should I play a little bit now? You want
to
hear?
Yes. Okay. Great. Yes.
Sure. I got it right here for you. And I'll play you a little song.
When did you start playing the harp?
Oh, 30 years ago here in Sedona. That's where the portal opened for me, and I heard the angelic choirs and the heavenly music, and then the angels appeared to me through a series of mystical visions that I had here. And then through that, I was able to make a telepathic link up with this group of angels who revealed to me that my mission was to channel the angelic sounds of which I was hearing, the celestial
Wow.
music, and to
Yes.
bring forth a special music that had a frequency in it that had the angelic frequency, the angelic tones, and also had the energy of the unified field of oneness and divine love in it, so that people could connect in with it. And that's what people all over the world now have been doing with my music for almost 30 years. So that's the purpose. The harp is perhaps the most sacred instrument,
Oh God, I love the harp.
certainly one of the most ancient, over 5,000-year-old history of this instrument on planet Earth.
Is that right? 5,000 years?
Over 5,000 from ancient Sumeria,
Samaria.
where the first ancient harps were unearthed in the ruins there. They're dated to about 5,000 years old, even before Egypt, and the harp was all over Egypt, played in the temples. So
Samaria civilization was actually before Egypt too.
absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. So with that in mind, I will play a bit this ancient instrument. I will play the sacred harmonics and the angelic tones for all to listen to, and we can unify with these tones right now. And let's tap into oneness together and that feeling of divine love with the angels who are aligning galactic circuits and opening portals so the higher dimensions can stream down upon us right now. So enjoy for a few moments.
Oh, very, very heart opening. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Lightened up my heart appreciably.
Oh, good. Good. There.
Peter, tell me if you've got to a place where you actually face to face came with an ET. Did you ever face to face? And if so, you believe it was like actually in person or from another dimension that it happened? Share with us what your reality is with it.
Well, I did have a very dramatic experience some years ago. Back in 2009, I was living in Los Angeles, and I was working with a shamanic group, doing a lot of shamanic healing, and also working with the ayahuasca ceremony, which for those your viewers who are familiar and those that not, it's a very strong hallucinogen, of course, from the Amazon, and it's very rich in DMT, which has a really dramatic effect on the mind, I would say, and also the body. But so this, I was doing a series of ceremonies with this group, and this one night I actually did a pretty large dose towards the last call in the middle of the night, and I was in a dark room with 12 people, and with a shaman leading us, and it was basically in the dark the whole time. And it was about 2 or 3 in the morning. I decided to take kind of that last call hero's dose. I was feeling brave that night. And I took it, the swigged it down and laid on my pad in the dark room. And I had two crystals, one in each hand. I put one to my third eye and one to my heart. And I was kind of in a fetal position on my mat. And all of a sudden, I just started tumbling and rolling through kind of this multidimensional, kaleidoscopic, mosaic-like, pulsating patterns of technicolor light, and just of energy that was just so profoundly mesmerizing and psychedelic. It was all kind of sacred geometry and just a beautiful to watch. It was incredibly kind of spellbinding to watch it all unfold. And it seemed to have an organic nature, with kind of living and breathing. There was some sort of intelligence in it. And anyway, I was caught up in this, and all of a sudden I popped through kind of some sort of a portal, and I was all of a sudden standing on a small spacecraft. Now, this I was out of my body very much, and my physical body was laying on the mat in a dark room, but I was having a technicolor virtual reality experience where all of a sudden I was transported and popped onto a small spacecraft, and there were two gray aliens there immediately to welcome me aboard, so to speak, and the Zeta Reticuli, the small ones with the big eyes, and immediately they had a telepathic communication. They said, "Welcome aboard," and Leo, I could tell there was something of great urgency they wanted to share with me. This was in 2009, by the way, and anyway, after I got my bearings, they said, "Welcome aboard." I didn't feel threatened, but they had these big eyes that were looking at me and kind of penetrating into my mind. And I could hear them telepathically. They said, "Welcome aboard." And they said, basically, they had a important message. There was something going on, because when I got on the ship, there was a red flashing light and kind of a siren going off, like a warning light. And I was like, "What's going on here?" And they said, "Well, there's been an explosion at the center of the galaxy, and a wave of light has traveling from the galactic core and is moving out along the plane of the ecliptic of the galaxy, and is going to sweep through our solar system sometime in the near future."
Wow.
And they said this is going to, the message was, this is a huge thing. It's going to change everything. And basically this was a blast of energy, of intense energy, that is going to, the way they described it to me, this is going to be kind of a push, this last push for those of us on an ascension pathway that we've been waiting for. They explained that there's been many planetary activations over the years and decades that many people around the world have tuned into with these global synchronized events over the years, like the harmonic convergence in '87, yes, things like that, which have all been kind of preparatory upgrades. We receive the codes, get the activation, stabilize in the new frequency, keep moving, and then there's further waves of energy and activations that come our way over time, building, yes, and building to the final crescendo, which is going to be this blast of light coming from this huge explosion at the black hole at the center of our galaxy. So
that's already happened. You say it's on its way,
right? Well, what they explained to me that the galactic core is 26,000 light years away, where the black hole at the center of the Milky Way Galaxy is. So they told me telepathically that this energy has been moving for that long, traveling, and it's finally going to arrive. And they also said that galaxies pulsate, that they have these rhythmic pulsations from the galactic core and pulsate like a heartbeat. Now, I knew nothing about this at the time. It was all news to me when I was hearing this. But you know, the thing that they left me with, they said, you know, when you get home, research everything that we've told you, and you will find, confirmation for everything we have told you. And so that's what I did. And I came home, I got on the computer, I started researching galactic pulsations. That's what I Googled. And first couple of articles were from NASA and JPL Labs in Pasadena. And they were talking these theories of galactic pulsations, that actually galaxies pulsate rhythmically. And I thought that was very interesting. And then the third listing down was the work of Dr. Paul Laviolette, who has 2 PhDs. He's an astrophysicist and has authored numerous books, but he's a very cosmic scientist. And one of his main thesis of his research over the years has been finding evidence of a galactic pulsation that came in the history in the past, and also one to come in the future, that these happen every so often. And so so I found that fascinating. I read through his work, and it was exactly confirmation what the ETs told me. I actually reached out to him and ended up meeting him when I was led by these ETs that I met to go to England to see the crop circles. And when I was there was the Glastonbury conference, and it turned out that Paul Laviolette was one of the keynote speakers. And so I got to meet him and share my story with him. He was very interested in my story and my experience. But yeah, and what was interesting, Leo, was after I received this message about the galactic pulsation, NASA published a photo about a year later, a year or two later, either 2010, 2011, from their Fermi radio telescope. It's a gamma ray telescope that the NASA shot out to the far reaches of the solar system to search for gamma ray emissions from celestial objects. But they pointed it back at the center of our galaxy, and or pointed directly at the center of the galaxy. And what they observed was this gamma ray telescope picked up that there was a huge emanation of gamma rays coming out of our galaxy. Now, if I could screen share with you, I actually have a picture that I could show people of this. Can I screen share?
Yes.
Is that the button here in the middle? Okay.
You should have it. Yes.
Let's see how this works now. Tell me when you can see my screen. Can you see it, Leo?
Well, no? It's interesting. No, wait. I think I can get that on. Put it back up.
Okay.
There we go. Nope.
Can you see it?
Well, actually, I see a bunch of pictures.
Okay.
Now I do. Now I do. Good.
Right. So here is the picture of NASA's from the Fermi telescope. This image, you know, I received the message from the ETs that there was this huge blast of energy at the center of our galaxy from the black hole. And then, you know, a year later, NASA publishes this image. And you can see here these huge ultraviolet bulbs of gamma ray emissions. Gamma ray, by the way, is the highest frequency of light. And it's, you know, very intense. And here's the Milky Way Galaxy. And notice here's where our sun is out here on the outer edges of the Milky Way. And you see this is from the top of this bulb to the bottom is 50,000 light years. Well, if you cut that in half, 25,000 light years to go vertical this way, to travel that far. Well, what the ETs told me, that not only is there a vertical emanation from this blast, but there's also a blast that radiates out through the ecliptic along the horizontal plane here of the galaxy. So that makes sense. See, the ETs told me that, you know, this happened about 26,000 years ago and it's approaching our solar system. Well, if you cut this in half, if this is, you know, about 26,000 years up here, if you lay it on its side, it will come directly, it'll lay perfectly over where our location is out on the galaxy. So it kind of all made sense. And then other people started to pick up on this, and other people started to talk, were receiving this message about this galactic pulsation that was coming. And there were many, influential kind of New Age teachers, leaders that were speaking of this back in the time, especially like in the 2011, 2012 time. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. I have another image here.
Yes.
This was actually from Paul Laviole's website. And this is his team of researchers. He took up to Antarctica, and they drilled into the ice cores, analyzing these ice cores, and they went back to 26,000 years. And sure enough, they found elevated levels of cosmic dust and gold in the ice, which comes from off-planet sources. So that was like confirmation for Paul Laviole's research that indeed these galactic pulsations happen periodically, rhythmically, and perhaps, maybe this galactic pulse could be responsible for the precession of the equinoxes, because when the blast comes through, it could be powerful enough to
26,000 years is going through all 12 signs.
Yeah, exactly.
Ages, so that's perfect.
And we have such great synchronicity within all the movements of our planet and stars and everything. It would not surprise me if there's a connection with the galactic pulsation every 26,000.
Let me ask you this real quickly here. Yeah. So it was 2009 when they said that this blast began. Is that when it began, the blast from the?
No, well, that's when I received the message about it from the ETs, and then NASA published this image in 2010. About a year later, they publicly published this about the gamma ray burst. And what's interesting about NASA is they just published the image, and there's a wonderful animated video about it that you can see, but they don't know what it is. They say there was a huge explosion at the center, but that's all they know. They didn't really go into any detail about the meaning of it, which I thought was interesting. It's still kind of a mystery of what it is to NASA. So
does it travel toward us here on Earth?
Yeah, it's on its way. It's moving out. Well, right about now, I think we're in the window, this kind of event horizon. Yeah, I mean, it could happen at any time was the message, and that we are to prepare, and that at that time, for those that want to, get on the high line path, on the ascension path up to a higher dimension, which many of us are focusing on, kind of unifying with the unified field, my fifth dimensional kind of light body awareness. We want to make our ascension into the higher frequencies and the higher dimensions. Yes. This is the pulsation. This is the wave that's going to push us. And apparently we're going to see this phenomena in the night sky, before it arrives. So it'll come from Sagittarius A, which when you look up, that's the center of the galaxy there.
Let me add this. Let me also add this here. It's like if the person has anything around 26, 27 degrees of Sagittarius in their natal chart, they are connected very intimately with the center of the galaxy.
Sure.
And all that you're talking about is going to affect them more than it's going to affect most other people.
Absolutely. I have some other cool pictures here. I can show you a couple that I think you'd like to see. Okay, so this one here, I was on Amintani Island on a shamanic journey. This is in Peru on Lake Titicaca. And
when was this?
This was in 2009. And so this picture was taken, and a moment later, my friend took this picture, and you can see this orb moving at a high velocity, slamming me right in the midsection here.
It actually goes lower than the midsection.
Yeah, talk about a below the belt blow there. What I later learned, though, what's interesting is this was my son. He's a starseed spirit. And this is when he attached to me kind of in my second chakra as a star seed. And it was 3 months later where I met his mother. And 3 months after that, he was conceived. This is what I was told. This is how star seeds, the father carries the seed and has to deliver it to the mother. And this is the spirit attached. With my son's case, he attached to my energy body, or into my chakras first as a star seed. Isn't that fascinating? Now here's another interesting shot. The next morning, as we were leaving to get on our boat, we had breakfast with these native people here who had us in their home. Very sweet, but very poor. And we're in the kitchen with the mud floor. And my angels, I often travel with a harp internationally, and I had one with me here. And my angel said, play your harp for them and invite some angels into their home for them.
Nice.
And do a blessing. So I did. My friend took this picture, and a moment later, he took this picture where you can see a beautiful angelic being appeared in the room. And this is the power of the harp. This is the kind of the harp magic that I can do. I can summon and invoke angels with the harp. This is something legendary. So that's pretty cool. Let me see what else I got here for you. Okay, this was interesting, Leo. This was two guys that I took out on a vortex tour, because I do Jeep tours here in Sedona. And we were up on the airport mesa, and we were sitting on these rocks. They turned out to be UFO contactees. And I said, oh, I have a story too. So I told them the story, which I shared with you, about my contact experience and being taken up on the ship. And they had me take this picture with their phone. And they sent it to me a few days later. I said, look what we discovered directly above our head. And I was looking, and I kind of zoomed in. You can see here right above Courthouse Rock, there's a shadow here. It looks perfectly like a spacecraft that's cloaked in the clouds here. And then I ended up kind of enhancing the contrast a little bit, zooming in. But you can see the ship here. And what's interesting is that Bashar, who's also a Zeta Reticulan, which is the group I'm connected with, says that his mother ship is anchored over Bell Rock and Courthouse Rock. Isn't that cool? You can see the ship. It's just very subtle in the original photo there. Got some other cool shots here. Oh, this you might find interesting. This was a friend of mine went to Tibet, and he did the pilgrimage around Mount Kailash. Here's the pilgrimage road, and you circumnavigate the whole mountain. It takes several days to do it, but he snapped this picture, and here you can see right here is a light ship here. Here's another image he took with these two beautiful ones here. Isn't that cool? That's not a lens flare. That he was taking a picture of the waterfall coming down here, and these two ships appeared on it. Here's an enlargement of, oops.
Go back. There you go.
Hold on.
There it is.
Isn't that beautiful?
Pretty obvious.
This is what, my friend JJ Hurtak would call the extra dimensionals. They're kind of hyper ETs. They live in the ultra high dimensions. These are more light ships. They're not physical craft with metallic so much. They're more of ships of light, you can see. So that was cool. And of course, after I had my ET, I was led to go to England and bring my harp, where I hold it up into the wind, and the wind plays the harp with these harmonic sounds that's otherworldly. And I've done this all over the world.
Have you recorded that?
What's that?
Have you recorded the wind going?
Yes, I do. I have a CD of this. I will show it to you. But here I am standing in the field of barley here with a crop circle. This was the very famous one under the White Horse. I wish I had the full picture. Here's another image of me in Sedona, and you can see this was interesting with my clients. Here I'm doing the wind harp, calling in the angels. Notice the woman's shadows. This was at sunset time, and look at her long shadow projected behind her on the ground, both of them, because the sun was out to the west. But look at these light rays coming down to my harp from the angelic portals of light streaming in. This is what I do. I open portals of light to stream into the earth plane from the higher dimensions, working with the angelic team to open portals so that high frequency light streams, data streams can come into the 3D. And this is a beautiful representation of that. You see,
Peter, I've got to let you go because we're at the end of our hour.
Oh, right.
You promise me you're coming back very soon. You come back very soon.
Let me stop the screen share there. There you go. Okay, thank you, Leo.
Will you come back very soon?
Yeah, come and visit me at harpmagic.com. You can see all my stuff there. Thank you for having me, Leo.
And we would like to have you back on, especially as all these different events happen this year.
For sure.
Yeah, that's good. It's good.
Definitely.
Take good care of yourself.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, no words to use that are going to adequately speak to what we just heard. So I hope a lot of you have something new is probably coming through, a lot of you, about what's really happening and what's really coming our way. So I'm going to ask Peter to come back pretty shortly. I mean, a few weeks, if you will. But in the meantime, he gave you, I didn't, harpmagic.com. So we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to have on Ron D'Amico, who also is pretty far into New World ways of being consciousness-wise. And we'll talk to him about that, some of his healing abilities too. So I will see you in 2 weeks. That means 31st, 5th, right after the eclipse, the second eclipse on the 10th of June. Remember, you can get a hold of me at Solus, SOULUS, at AOL.com. You can go up to LeoKnightonTallarico.com and see about the work that I do and how to get yourself a session. And also, you'll be able to get onto the show by being up there. You can actually press a button and get onto the blog that comes out every Saturday called Same Perspectives from the Sky. We'll have Deborah Knighton Tallarico on before too long also. And we're going to have a lot more guests as the one we had today. And I'm very appreciative of him coming on the show today. I think it was really good for like opening up some minds and hearts. Because that's opening up our hearts has a lot to do with where we're moving into, not just our heads. And that harp music certainly did that for me. Anyway, pleasure to be with you all today. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care. Much love. Bye-bye.